Welcome, guys. We are live tonight. With us, we have Styles in Dusseldorf. Whoa, I did it again. Styles in Dusseldorf. Whoa, I did it again. There, we should be good to go. Sorry about the huge feedback. How's it going? Not bad, Northern. Elscat, what's going on? But live with us here in our Discord studio, we have Dusseldorf and Styles. Styles, of course, from Canada. Dussel, I think, is from Middle America. Is from Texas, Mid America, and of course, you guys know me live from Concord, North Carolina. It's Cardboard, also known as Alex. Slim, welcome. Absolutely, welcome to our live podcast. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So, um, let's see. So tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about some things that are a little intense. A little intense. Not going to lie. Um, we're going to be talking about first Alexander Dugin. He's basically a super racist, white ethno Slavic empowerment philosopher, and he's the guy who convinced Putin to invade, and Putin follows Alexander Dugin, who's a Russian fascist. He is Putin's favorite philosopher. He's very empowered inside of the Russian. I don't know how to social sphere, and very powerful within their political sphere, and is one of the leaders of the National Bolshevik Front, and is a pretty high up party member in the United Russia Party, or the UR, which Vladimir Putin belongs to. But basically, Alexander Dugin, we're going to sort of talk about him, who he is, and sort of what his history is. And let me pull up the Wikipedia entry for him also. So, anyways, and we'll talk about this guy. But this guy is really the reason, if you really read his works, some of his books, Putin is doing starts to make a lot more sense. Does anybody see this weird like artifact in the
Bar.
middle of my, yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm looking to see what that is. Oh, I got it. Woot. Bam. Transition. All right, gone. There we go. So, Alexander Dugin, he is, again, very involved in politics, but he was born in Moscow in 1962. He's more than just a political philosopher, as it says. He who became a politician. He embraced the Old Believers, which is basically this Russian religious movement that rejected the Russian Orthodoxy Church, the Orthodox Church, and basically became one of the first leaders of the Nationalist Bolshevik Party, right? And from '93 to '98, part of the Eurasia Party, part of Russia United, which Vladimir Putin belongs to. And he embraces paganism along with Christianity, somehow being able to convince people that he's allowed to uh, do these things. Hey, what's up, Zach? Welcome. Jay the Giant Peach, welcome also. But basically, has convinced people somehow that practicing paganism doesn't go against Christian morality or beliefs. I don't know how that works. It's quite insane to me. But his adherence to the Old Believers allowed him to combine Slavic paganism and Orthodox Christianity without formally adopting either. What I just said, basically. A choice he claimed was not paradoxical, since he said the Old Believers have preserved an esoteric and initiatory character which has been lost in Western Christianity. As such, his own Russian Orthodox tradition has emerged, with neo-paganism becoming a potent nationalist force. This is where the idea of bathing in horn blood from deer antlers comes from, and it's part of the paganistic rituals that Putin is taking part in, and has been known to take part in for health reasons. He adopted a alter ego, Hans Sever, which is a reference to Wolfram Sievers. If you guys have ever heard of Wolfram, it's a famous mathematician and Nazi researcher. as it says, Dugin's ideas can best be described as Slavo-Nazism, influenced by the likes of Julius Evola, Albinoist, and the beliefs of the traditionalist school. And you guys can look up all that. All these sources to all these things that I'm going through tonight, guys, are inside of our podcast topics channel. Inside of our Discord. Make sure you guys hit that Discord, hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you're not already subscribed. But you guys can find all of that there, along with extra commentary and information, and well, plain just spicy comments and conversations too. We also got the Safe for Work side. You guys can stay over there. It's not a problem. But you guys are welcome to join. So there was a book that was written about him, which basically said, is he the Russian version of the European radical right, by Marlene Laurel. And she basically took and broke apart his ideologies and showed how they're basically joined together by the basic principles of Nazism, traditionalism, part of the German conservative revolution, and of course the European right. So, and to quote her, and when not reinventing fascism with the Russian soul, he has also dabbled in Satanism via the Uhinsky group, a dissident group that played with Satanism and the cult. Dugin has authored more than 30 books, among them The Foundations of Geopolitics and The Fourth Political Theory. This is where we start getting into understanding Putin's common line of thought, specifically around the foundations of geopolitics. That book itself is very foundational to, if you look at Putin's beliefs and behaviors and then add on his lifelong desire to basically reunify the Russian and Slavic people. This really fed into that ideal and sort of fed the fire. So but it's foundations of geopolitics that caused much of the world and now Ukraine's angst. It was Vladimir Putin who insisted the book become the official textbook of the Academy of the General Staff of the Russian military. In some ways, is the Russian version of Hitler's Mein Kampf. In 1997, in his article Fascism, Borderless and Red, Dugin described national capitalism as preempting the development of a genuine, true, radically revolutionary, and consistent fascism in Russia. Right? So this goes towards the idea of communism and socialism, right? And so the socialistic idea, and it really, that socialistic idea references the beliefs of Hitler, all right? Guys, the idea of white nationalism or Nazism, the whole belief is rooted in racism, and somehow people try to disassociate and the racism from anything leftist or socialist, and try to associate the word right with racism, and oh well, this person's on the right, they must be racist, and the media has done a great job in doing the literal mental gymnastics and a beautiful mental I don't have any exercise is the only way I know how to say it, in creating that association. But let me be very clear. If you want to talk about people who are socialists, who have been overt racists, we can say Hitler, of course, Mao, right? Che Guevara, and Marx himself. Marx hated black people, okay? Hated them. Self-declared, proclaimed racists, right? All of those people. And the thing is that, yeah, Hitler was a socialist. He just believed that socialism could only work with white people. Well, Dugin thinks that Slavic people are the key and answer to the world's problems, and that socialism failed not because socialism was bad or it hasn't really worked anywhere else, but that because it was interfered with by non-Slavic people, specifically the Jews. And he has some weird views there that are very just, I don't know how to call them anything but abhorrent, and we're not going to dive into them because YouTube TOS. All right. So he says that by no means the racist and chauvinistic aspects of of National Socialism that determined the nature of its ideology. The excesses of this ideology in Germany are a matter exclusively of the Germans. See, he's blaming the failure of National Socialism on it being from some other race or ethnicity, right? While Russian fascism is a combination of natural national conservatism. So Russians must be conservative, and so we're naturally predisposed to nationalism with a passionate desire for true changes. It can work because it's us and we're better than everyone, right? Another one of Dugin's projects was the Eurasia Party, an ultranationalist offshoot of the National Bolsheviks, guys. An extremely traditionalist, socially conservative with fascist economic views, whose members have volunteered forces to help Russian separatists of eastern Ukraine. The Eurasia Party is one of the major proponents and is actually seemed to be a political arm at this point of the FSB that is operating in the Donbass region. So, as an author of Russia's annexation of Crimea, Dugin has written the war between Russia and Ukraine as inevitable. And he did that. He did so 10 years ago, by the way, guys. And he said that the Russian Renaissance can only stop by Kyiv. Right? So basically, Russian places where Russia originated from or that are truly Russian, that are no longer under Russians' control, are the only thing that can undermine Russian dominance and this purveyance of Slavic, ultranational Slavic Russian dominance and socialism succeeding under a truly Slavic people. You guys see where this is going? Sounds real familiar, right? Maybe look at the Black Israelites or the KKK or Nazis. Yeah, they're kind of doing some. And also, guys, they blame Russia. Literally, has been blaming Ukraine for consulting with witches and being Nazis. They literally are embracing Nazism. They're deflecting and projecting their own internal beliefs and systems on other people as a way to invade them. It doesn't make much sense. It's quite interesting. And then Zach said it. There is a great at projecting. Yep. However, for those who still don't readily recognize Dugin's work, it's all over the internet and has been the wellspring of the global. This is the part where I don't agree, right? So these guys, it's not the alt-right. Dugin is not embraced by the alt-right. Dugin is embraced by nationalist, leftist authoritarians. Okay, it's specifically it's literally ethno-authoritarianism. The ethno-state is not specific to the right. The ethno-state and the idea of an authoritarian ethno-state is specific to the left and the right, but it's specific to authoritarianism, which can be on either side. Do not let people like this fool you. Okay, and there's also centrists. There are authoritarian centrists somehow. We can talk about all that later, but don't get distracted by that bullshit. Let's see. No, we didn't plan that. It was quite interesting. The Russian Kremlin is doing that to be clear. Exactly as I was projecting. Absolutely. So, all right. So, white identitarians through the. Not all people who are Slavic are white. First off, they actually tend to be more Mediterranean and Eurasian. All right. Slavic peoples are a mixture of Asian and European. So this is the one part where I think they get it wrong, right? So this has become clear only days after Putin ordered his brutal invasion. He wrote on his Facebook page what sounded like lines from pages of the manifesto of Norwegian neo-Nazi Andreas Breivik, the Christchurch shooter or convicted Serbian war criminal, all along with neo-Nazi websites. Okay, guys, let's really have a real quick conversation. Do you guys understand what Nazi stood for? It's the National Socialist Workers' Party. It's Nazi. All right? The Nazis were leftists. They were socialists. They were authoritarians. People are somehow conflicting these two things. You cannot be socialist and be right-wing, right? You can be authoritarian and be on either side, which authoritarianism eventually turns into fascism, all right? Fascism slash authoritarianism can exist on the left, the center, and the right. Politics do not go two directions, they are a quadrant. Okay? And actually, if you look at it, they're actually like a sphere in which you can fall into multiple axes that operate on a three-dimensional cube, right? So, and we can talk about that later, but I just want to point out something that is a common misconception, because I don't like this idea that if you lean to the right or you lean to the left, that you somehow are inherently racist or anti-racist, or that you can't be any of these things. It doesn't. It's literally lazy, and it's meant to be disingenuous, and is a byproduct of American polarization in our politics that is fucking up the rest of the world. So, and yes, I love America, but we're kind of fucking up the rest of the world a little bit. So, anyways, so let's talk about Dugin. So Dugin's ideas about Slavic nationalism is the only way that basically you can solve the world's problems, right? It's just it's insanity, right? So he talks about the fifth column and things like that. So he basically creates these foreign agents that are used to create political accusations and publications, stuff like that. And he spreads his misinformations, and he uses the fifth column. And we're not going to get deep into this because this right here, the talking about this will get you banned off of YouTube, unfortunately. You're not allowed to talk about fifth column politics. So his stance on Ukraine is that only through a unified Slavic people under one flag and one country can there be a state that's set up and used to counter the West, and that Slavic nation will be the power that brings back traditionalism and Slavic empowerment to bring forth the greater Europe. Sound familiar? This is the motivation behind Putin's war in Ukraine. This man right here is what has birthed the movement inside of Russia, inside of Russia's party, inside of the the sociological movement inside of Russian society towards what we're experiencing today, and he has fomented it for 20 plus years and has been allowed to do so. So the thing is that, and by lacking understanding, by oversimplifying Putin's motivations, what he wants, we've ignored the underlying issue that even if we remove Putin, even if we take Putin out of power, it does not change that this ideology has become deep rooted in a large portion of the Russian people. We have to counter this narrative or else we don't win the war. It doesn't matter. Ukraine is looking like they're going to push Russia out of their country, okay? Russia is not doing well by any means. That's why I'm not going over it today. Nothing has really changed that's public, and I don't want to keep iterating over the same things. We'll cover it in a few days when more stuff has changed on the ground. But right now, Ukraine is beating the shit out of Russia, all right? And even if they win, it still doesn't change the fact that there is a nation on this planet who, now that they realize their problems, has a chance to correct them, and does have one of the largest militaries in the world, and has the largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world, who holds these identitarian political views that are ultra nationalistic, right? And seem to speak the same language as the Nazis did. And no one's talking about it. No one's talking about Dugin and Duginism, as it's called. This man is dangerous. And we have to find ways to counteract this narrative, or else Putin will just be replaced by someone who has these same beliefs, and it's probably going to be worse. The guy that they're talking about aligning him with is twice as ruthless as Putin is, okay? Putin at least tried to put on this veneer of, I'm a straight-up politician. His replacement, I can't pronounce his name right now. I apologize. But the leader of the FSB, he gives no shits. He's ruthless. He doesn't hide what he does. He doesn't need to excuse it. It was my decision. I made the decision. They're negative for our country. Bye bye. How do we know they have the most nuclear weapons? You can Google it. Open Intel. The IAEA, which is responsible for tracking how much nuclear weapons and other things that countries have. That's how we know. So JT Peach says, "How do we know that they have the most nuclear weapons?" I answer that, and then she asked, "Couldn't they lie?" Technically, they could, but there's detection satellites and other things that show nuclear. Listen, nuclear weapons off-put huge nuclear signatures. Large hiding any large enough nuclear arsenal to make a huge difference in numbers would be very difficult to hide from the IAEA. Zach Six. So that's a misnomer. Plutonium cores can last for over 100 years. The delivery systems may be compromised, but it's at least 50%. Um, so Zach, and that's in response, guys. Zach asked, "I'm curious about how much of their nuclear stock is still viable. The stuff takes maintenance. Based on what I've seen on their equipment, they aren't the best at maintaining gear. Out of everything, they would have maintained their nuclear arsenal the most. There is some idea that some of their delivery systems are not up to snuff, but we know that at least 50% of their silos were able to go smoke. I'm sorry, that's an acronym. Let me be clear. Guys, old school rocket booster systems had to be super cooled, okay? And when they usually use liquid nitrogen systems, which means that silos will off-put smoke from those super cooling systems. So when they're ready to go live, when they went to when they went to level 2 readiness, you saw a lot of their nuclear silos go smoke, right? And so that means there's smoke, there's off gassing coming off of those nuclear silos. And so we know at least 50% or more of their silos are operable. So, there we go. Do 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 do. And that's for intercontinental ballistic missiles. As far as like their, which are regional ballistic missiles or RBMs, their regional ballistic missiles are quite capable and are standing, and there's no doubt about that. They have a few hundred. Um, and they range from large to tactical nukes. So that's a thing. But this guy is dangerous. This is the man behind it. If you want to understand Putin's ideology, Putin's thinking, you need to understand Alexander Dugin. Read his book. Don't become indoctrinated by it. It is very convincing until you start questioning it, right? Um, so that's just where it goes. So Dugin disapproves of liberalism in the West, particularly U.S. Hegemony, right? So when we were talking about hegemony and challenging U.S. hegemony, he asserts we are on the side of Stalin and the Soviet Union. He describes himself as being a conservative. We conservatives want a strong, solid state, want order and healthy family, positive values, the reinforcing of the importance of religion and the church in society, though he practices paganism. He adds, we want patriotic radio, TV, patriotic experts. 1984 much? The Ministry of Truth. Patriotic experts and patriotic clubs. We want the media that expresses national interests, right? So control of the media. Nationalistic media. Sounds really North Korea-ish right now. According to political scientist Marina, the thinking of Dugin's main manufacturer of fascism a la Russe could be described as a series of concentric circles with far-right ideology underpinned by different political and philosophical traditions. This is not correct. With authoritarian socialist ideologies underpinned by different political and philosophical traditions. Esoteric Nazism, traditional perennialism, the German conservative revolution, and European New Right at its backbone. Dugin adapts Martin Heidegger's thought of existence and transforms it into the geophilosophical concept. According to Dugin, the forces of liberal and capitalist Western civilizations represent what ancient Greeks call hubris, the essential form of Titanism, and opposes heaven, the idea form of the being, blah, blah, blah. In other words, the West would summarize the revolt of earth against heaven to what he calls the West atomizing universalism. Dugin contrasts the apophatic universalism expressed in the political idea of empire and values democracy, human rights, and individualism are considered by him not to be universal but uniquely Western. Shit's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. This guy is what it's all behind. Dugin has espoused fascist views and has theorized the foundation of a Euro-Asian empire. This is what I was talking about. Capable of fighting the U.S.-led Western world. This is where we get into creating a unified Russia. A Euro-Asian country capable of standing up to the West. This is where the ideals come from, guys. This is where Putin's thinking is coming from. This is where what is motivating his actions today. This man and his followers and the people who are taking part in his belief system are what is driving forward this ideal. And it started to evolve into Uzbekistan and other Baltic states. It's not unique. The Hungarian president, I think that's the one that's on the right. I could be wrong. Don't want to, but he follows. He actually has expressed that he reads and follows some of the beliefs of Duginism. The Slovak, there's a huge party in Slovakia, right, that follows this. It's spread into from the Russian domain to the Russian puppet governments, right? Kazakhstan, the rest, and it's pervasive because it speaks to people who feel like they are being minimized. And this is why it's a big deal in my Discord and other places that we don't other people, because all it does is make them feel ostracized and isolated. And those people are the ones that you can say, hey, it's because you're this, and come and be with your people. And it opens people up to entering into echo chambers and becoming more extreme. We can agree to disagree. I can disagree with you and still love you. Respect you as a human, be your friend, right? I said I'm strongly Christian, right? My best friend is gay and has a husband. Does my religion agree with his lifestyle? No. Does it stop him from being the equivalent of my brother? No. We have to stop othering people because that opens them up to shit like this. Russia has felt isolated and pushed away by the West and ignored, and therefore has felt disempowered. And this is why Putin talks about re-empowering Russia, a powerful and strong Russia, one that matters and has effect on the world stage. That's the basis of it. We have alienated them, othered them, and made them feel excluded from the world stage. We have cucked them, and this is what you get. All right. So Northern Light says that's why so many people still follow Hitler's views still, like the Aryan Brotherhood and other crazy neo-Nazi groups. I can see the same happening with this book, sadly. It's gross. Yes, absolutely. That's cardboard and lights all day on Discord. I don't understand. What's that? Northern Lights. What? Hold on. Confused here. Cool. Was something said on Discord that I'm unaware of? No, nothing in VC chat. I can't read general chat right now, guys. You guys be spamming too much. All right. So, a meaning agree to disagree. I mean, me and Northern hold the same views on a lot of stuff. The stuff that we strongly disagree on is things that are mostly inconsequential. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you can agree with Christian values and not be Christian, right? You don't have to believe in God to say, hey, this is a great moral basis for society. Me and North disagree on three main things, and they're all inconsequential if you think about the greater scheme of the world, right? Herman Lucas says, it surprises me you are a strong Christian. What does that surprise you, Herman? I'm open. I want to have this conversation. Let me open the one that's more real time. Give me 1 second, guys. I don't have chat up for some reason in my piece over here. Like, I'm born Catholic, but I am very pro anarchy. It's me, holy. Oh yeah. What's up, man? All right. No, I mean, here's the thing. I hold strong views. Example, I said that I believe that abortion is murder, right? That's my personal opinion. But guess what? I can choose not to participate in that. I can choose to teach that to my children. I can choose to live that way in my life. I don't have a right to force that on others. Now, I have a way to vote for the people I believe that too, but give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto Christ what is Christ's, right? I will, if we are Christ chosen, we will live in his way, right? And the other people can go do whatever they want. I'm not responsible for what the government does. I'm responsible for what my people do, right? And though the government may represent me in the country that I am, I'm still first and foremost Christian, and it's my responsibility to live that life and not force other people into it. It's that simple. Jay, you're good. I'm just saying, just want to make sure we're clear. Well, yeah, Jay, what is Luna's favorite book, as she asked? We're getting distracted now. All right. So, maybe you guys have a better understanding of who this guy is, have a place to start your research and understand better. So when I was talking before that it's more complex than, Putin's lost his damn mind or Putin just wants to see a reunified Russia, and I was saying that it's much more complex than that. I just didn't feel comfortable talking about that in the other place in which that conversation started. But now that we have our own server and our own shit, fuck it. We can talk about it. But this is what I was talking about. Just sharing stuff like this was apparently banned. So now that we're here, we got this. Yeah, 1984 is amazing. But you got to understand that this is basically where it comes from. And this belief system he's trying to build the Euro-Asian Empire. That's what he's trying to see realized before his death. And so he's acting now. It's just that simple, guys. So, yeah, exactly. So Northern Light says, I think everyone has opinions, and I don't think disagreeing is ever bad. Exactly. It's the whole point. See, that's the problem I have with what is now considered the liberal party. And I was considered liberal for many years. But my party changed, not me. I value diversity, but I don't care about diversity of appearance. I care about diversity of opinion because I believe that through having people who are diverse in their opinions and diverse in their belief systems, that we can come out to a better outcome for all. And that's why I believe in statism, right? That way states can be representative of their people much better than a federal government can be representative of the entire country, right? So I like the idea of self-determination and self-responsibility and those things. And I think that they're important if we really want to embrace, a constitutional democratic republic. We are not a democracy. Guys, absolutism also has its problems, right? So let's talk about that. Absolutism. Let's name. Okay, absolutism. Everybody says democracy is great, right? Absolutism in democracy means mob rule, which means a minority will never have a say. Is that good? Is that a positive? So at the end of the day, I just don't see how how that leads to a positive outcome when, if you're going, well, a majority believe this, so this is what we're going to do. It minimizes everybody else, even if they're 48% of the country, because they're not the majority. That's absolute democracy. It's bad. It's mob rule, right? You can't have that. It's the reason the Senate exists. Everybody's, oh, well, the Senate should be, the Senate should be representative of how many people are in each state. No, because the Senate was meant as a check to make sure that the majority did not rule the minority. People talk about, let's limit speech. Why is that bad? Because, for example, in the 1960s and 1970s, a majority of America found the idea of talking about gay rights, absolutely found that subject offensive and abhorrent. If we banned speech we found offensive, you would have never had the civil rights movement, and you would have never had the gay rights movement. Period. It's just that simple. So it's just crazy. So Herman says, we had religion, now politics. We evolve. What's next? What? I mean, this is a political podcast, guys, and I mean, this is deep shit. I said there's gonna be some hardcore shit tonight. So, guys, pipe up at any time with any opinions you may have. I'm totally down. I'm open to it.
I think what he's saying is, like, at first, like, humans fought over religion, and now it's over, like, politics.
Now what's next? I got it. I get it. So, yeah, guys. So this is the foundation of the belief system of Putin. This is what's pushing this war forward. It goes along with some of the things that he has wanted traditionally, and he's finally putting it into play, and he miscalculated. When you surround yourself, to keep Putin staying in power has required him to embrace a level of corruption in which people just keep taking off the top and slide a little money out, and keep some for themselves. And as it went down through the ranks, and it's like a disease, it infected all the way down the ranks. It meant that the money that was supposed to go to certain things never made it there. And he's finding out how that's a bad thing. But they have a chance now to fix that, correct it, and move forward. They're not going to make the same mistake twice. We just got to make sure they don't feel comfortable enough to do it the second time. No, it's not popular in Russia to be apolitical. It's popular in Russia to either not express yourself or side with Putin's party. Otherwise, you get missing or imprisoned for life for things you couldn't have done, like Navalny. It's insanity. So, yeah. All right, guys, we're going to keep moving on. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button if you guys like the conversation we're having, and really are appreciating it. I appreciate every last one of you that are participating in our chat over here, and it's great to see you guys. Make sure you guys hit that share button. The biggest thing you guys can do to help me is hit that share button. Share this on Facebook. Share it on your Twitters. Put it out there to try to help me grow this audience so we can continue to do this. Excuse me. All right. So, moving forward. All right. So, guys, this man is Sam. He's my homie. Okay. Sam prayed with me and had my back. Didn't know me from shit. He's known as the Jesus Saves guy here in Charlotte. He's from Charlotte. Was in prison for a long time. Came out. He doesn't preach hate. He literally is out on the street corner saying Jesus loves you. He doesn't. He's not one of those like, you're going to hell, you're horrible. He's not. I don't know why I put on a southern accent for that, but whatever. He's literally, he preaches love, and you'll see his signs all over Charlotte as the Jesus Saves guy. He was attacked during some of the riots that happened because he was just out there carrying a sign saying Jesus saves. He wasn't condemning anybody. He doesn't condemn people. He's out there trying to he spreads love. Even if you're not a Christian, he'll still sit there, talk to you, tell you that you're loved, ask what your problems are, hear you out. He doesn't even care if you're a believer. And so he literally was telling people that he was glad they weren't aborted, and they freaked out on him and attacked him. Sam is cool as fuck. And for those, hold on, I'm gonna pull up my Facebook. So I'm gonna give me 1 second. Yeah, I have a Facebook. So Sam, his name is Sam Betha, and me and him are friends, and we've talked many times. And you see, going back to 12/7/21. So like me and him, we've had calls, we've talked. We've done much all the way going back to the beginning of 2021 and before that. Like he posts these signs. Jesus saves. That's what he does. He's not out there yelling at people that they're going to hell. We've got to stop this bullshit. Right? Like, I'm not going to stay on this very long. I just want to put out there that Sam, I love you. I love what you do. You're not out there othering people. You're telling them that you love them. Even if they don't believe Jesus, like, you tell them that you love them. You take the time to listen to them. You're a good person. And when I was down and was not feeling it, you had my back, and I appreciate that. And I'm sorry that these people felt the need to physically attack and assault you. And just know that, even as you know, me and many of my friends that are atheists, we are your friends, and we've come to your aid before, especially when dealing with the Black Hebrew Israelites and their assaults on you. And we still have your back. You're just too far away for us right now. So love you, man, and we're going to keep going forward. So anyways, just wanted to shout him out real quick, guys. He ended up on the Louder Crowder footage today. So all right. So, next subject. We're going to start talking about the Houston flea market shootings and other mass shootings that have happened outside of the New York mass shooting that just aren't being covered for some reason. And it seems it's because they don't fit a narrative. And we're going to talk about how it may be intellectually dishonest to talk about gun control and banning guns if you are going to hold the position, even if we save just one life. And we'll get into that. But first, guys, we're going to talk to you about our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Not really. No, we don't have a sponsor yet. But I do need to use the restroom briefly, guys. So we're going to take a real quick break before we dive into this. And we will be right back in about 5 minutes. We'll take 10. We'll be back at 8:55. We'll see you then. All right, and we are back about 5 minutes early. I'm out of drink. I should have refilled. It's okay. So, guys, that wasn't about abortion or not. The thing is, with Sam, as I said, Sam will show you love on the side of the street. When he's out there preaching, he'll stop, he'll talk to you. If you're hungry, if he has a way, he'll find a way to feed you. He doesn't care if you're a Christian or not. Doesn't care if you agree with him. He's just a good man. And the idea that people would attack a person who's preaching love, he's not even preaching at you. He's just saying, I'm glad that you weren't aborted. I love you. Jesus loves you. Right? There's nothing offensive in that. Nothing offensive. And hold on, sorry. There's nothing offensive in that. There's nothing offensive in that. Period. Like, to attack that man is just wrong. He's not doing anything to hurt you. He's not slandering you. He's not telling you, oh, you're going to hell. He's not out there preaching any of that. He's literally telling you he loves you. Like, it saddens me was the point of that, right? I know Sam, right? Like, he's a personal friend of mine. And it's just sad to me that people would find it acceptable to attack him. Right? Literally, this man cheerfully spent his day yesterday telling pro-abortion protesters, I'm glad your mother didn't, and reminding them that Jesus loves them. He received a whole lot of vitriol and vulgarity. Right? So we're going to play this. I get to see and talk to you, my friend. Live love.
Yeah, he raised you. I'll send them to you. Yes, what's my name? You don't even know my name. You're just talking. I'm out here telling you facts. Jesus loves you.
I know your name, moron.
Hey, I'm glad your mom didn't abort you.
That was her decision. Not yours.
You're right. You're alive, and we get to talk today, and I get to see you.
I love you.
I'm so happy y'all's mom didn't abort you. I love you, sir, and you can't do nothing about it.
Like, come on, guys.
What's going on today, sir?
Jesus.
Yeah?
Every day.
What are you? How long are you going to be out here today?
As the Holy Spirit leads me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're just telling people that you're
What's
happy
up,
that
Dawood? What's going on,
Well,
man?
my message is Jesus saves.
Okay.
That's the message. But yes, they're out here for an abortion rally, so the Holy Spirit told me to tell them, I'm glad your mom didn't abort you. Because you got a beautiful smile. You're beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, you have a great day.
You too, young lady.
Like, the man was saying, you know, my friends, I'm glad you're here today. I love you. Like, he wasn't preaching hate. He wasn't out there telling you you're going to hell. He wasn't out there calling you a murderer. He wasn't out there saying, oh, you're horrible, despicable, deplorable people. He was saying, I love you. And you're gonna call him out his name, tell him he's a moron, he's a bastard. He says, well, you say you love. He said, yeah, I live it. I love you. Like, come on, guys. Yeah, glad to see all of you here. Yo, Dawood Films, good to see you, my man. Welcome back. But yeah, I don't care what side of this you're on, guys. I don't care if you're pro-abortion or you're pro. I don't like to call it pro-choice. If you're pro-abortion or you're pro-life, it doesn't matter to me. This right here, this vitriol, this hatred, meeting people with that, and it hurts the most because he's my personal friend. And he was my friend even when I wasn't exercising a strong belief in Christ. When I was hungry, he made sure I got fed. He didn't even know me. He didn't know me when he prayed with me. He didn't know me when he listened to my story. He didn't know me. But he still loved me. And to attack that dude is just a problem. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Cardboard Slim here. Just a quick question. These people that attacked him, were they suffering mental health by any chance?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to slander people. I don't know, but I just want to make sure that we're clear. Like this behavior is what I'm talking about, where we other and we hurt people. Yeah, I don't know, man. Why do you ask?
I mean, as much as like I don't condemn any violence whatsoever. But is there an explanation for what happened? Like, you have people that wake up in the morning. And they're the type of people that you don't say good morning to. You just say morning. Because don't tell me what kind of day to have. And those type of people that just wake up with a chip on their shoulder, it takes a simple wrong wording. I wonder if the wrong person stepped in that circle, was rubbed the wrong way, triggered a mental health case. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it was multiple people. Unless there's 15 people surrounded him, took his sign, right? Yelled him down. Like, unless all 15 of those people were somehow abysmally mentally ill, there's no.
Right.
I'm sorry. I can't side with that, right? Like, there's no way I can.
I wasn't familiar with the
No,
whole.
yeah, I apologize. I just want to say, guys, like, we want us. We talk all the time about people being violent, or hey, why does it have to be so vile, and why can't people from both sides like get along or talk? And when you have something like this, you can clearly tell he's pro-life from the saying, I'm glad your mom didn't abort you, right? I love you, I'm glad you're here, I'm glad I can talk to you, right? You know what side he's on, okay? But anytime that people are disagreed with on a specific side, and sadly it seems to be the side I come from, right? It seems that they are met with what people deem acceptable, which is violence. And because they disagree, and oh, well, your speech is hurtful. And I want to make sure that this is outlined, that this, because I'm going to clip this later, okay, that this is not okay. We cannot continue to do this as Americans. It's not acceptable. His speech was not violence. Speech is not violence in and of itself unless it's a call to action. And
I think it goes beyond
Yeah.
Americans. Like, I mean, as just humans.
absolutely.
We gotta stop the hate.
Exactly.
Agree.
You can't yell at one side for hate and then meet them with hate and violence. You can't yell at them for hate and violence and then be like, oh, but we can be hateful and violent if we disagree with what you're saying. Like it's a conundrum. Go ahead.
Group of people that were disagreeing with his words could have just kept on walking.
Exactly. But instead they had to yell vileness at him, attack him, steal his signs, surround him with umbrellas, like to block people's view of him. Like it. By the way, Sam, loud as shit, okay? That man yells at the top of his lungs in downtown Charlotte in the middle of the day over traffic, okay? And you can hear him clearly 2 blocks away. That you are not going to be able to shout this man down, right? He's going to be heard. So one of the problems is where hyper-individualism takes hold. It's antithetical to altruism. I don't think so. I think you can still have individualism and still have altruism. I think that you can be altruistic in nature and do philanthropical good and still be. Now, where you get to where the individual is the only thing important, right? That's different. But I think that's hyper. I understand that hyper individualism. That makes sense. So yeah. Woot woot woot. So I get that, and I can somewhat agree with that. But I think that individualism in and of itself is not a negative, right? Just like hyper-capitalism, as I call it, right? That's bad, but capitalism in itself is not negative. So I get that. All right, let's keep on going. So guys, we're gonna move on to the victims of this week's mass shooting. So the New York shooter. The New York shooting at Tops, right? So we're gonna we'll go here. We'll talk about. We'll go here. I'm not gonna support CNN. Sorry, guys. Oh man, see this right here. That's just ridiculous. So, guys, at the end of the day. You guys hear a lot about this, but did you guys know that 2 other mass shootings happened over the weekend, not including the ones in Chicago? By the way, there were about 15 mass shootings in Chicago over the weekend. You didn't hear about any of them. So, yeah. Well, one second, I'm going to catch up on chat. Me mistaken. The first time my brother wasn't. That was different. Say it's fine, but we're totally different. Yeah. You know, guys, the thing is that you aren't hearing about these other mass shootings because they don't fit a narrative, right? And the media is allowed to exercise selective bias, and it's kind of frustrating to me because it shows me that the people who are using this to call for gun control and other things, they don't really care about the people who die in these mass shootings, is what it seems like to me. Because if so, then all of them would be important. They only care about ones that align with their political ideology and their current political talking points. And it bothers me. It bothers me to no end because they instantly take a tragedy and use it, and especially one that has such an inflammatory cause such as racism, instead of these other ones that are just as bad. People still lost their lives and they don't focus on them at all. Instead, they're focused on, oh, we need to call for gun control and focus on this one thing. And oh, it was this. Well, first off, they're trying to make this guy out to be far right. He said he was a centrist, left-leaning authoritarian, and he preferred to be called populist. He was a Marxist originally, but they're taking it out and they're taking it, I moved farther to the right, and they're just stopping there and they're not including that part. He literally took the political ideology scale test, the complex one, and that's where it placed him. We're so busy othering the side that we want associated with something that we're not focused on. People died, okay? And then we're calling for gun control. Well, you know what the problem with that is if we had further gun control, and people use this thing, oh, sensible gun control. What does that mean? What does sensible gun control mean? It's a vague term, and it's purposely vague. Like, they talk about gun show loopholes. How many people think that the gun show loophole actually exists? Do you guys know that there's no such thing as the gun show loophole? Go to a gun show and try to buy a firearm. Watch what happens. Cool. Understood. Yeah. Yeah, go to a gun show and try to buy a gun. Watch what happens with you. You're not going to get one. Go to a gun show, try to buy a pistol. In North Carolina, you actually can't even do the private sale of a pistol without the person having a personal pistol permit, or else you commit a felony. Okay? You can't sell guns at gun shows without background checks. It's that simple. You just can't go to a gun show and just buy a shit ton of guns and ammunition. It's not how it works. It doesn't exist. There's no gun show loophole, right? It's a myth. So, you guys, you want to know what the problem with common sense gun control is? Do you guys know how often guns are used in self-defense? 2.8 million times a year. Even in the middle ground, it's 1.8 million times a year. And they save on average over 750,000 lives at a minimum. So when you talk about if it only saves one life, well, if you banned guns in the ways you want to, it would stop people from defending themselves. And there's this whole thing, oh, a good guy with a gun is a myth. That's not a myth. It's not a myth at all. And sadly, these people take a huge risk to themselves defending other people. And here's the thing. If you guys look at mass shootings, there's 4 places where most mass shootings occur in the U.S. currently. New York State. Most harsh gun control laws in America. Okay? Chicago specifically, though Illinois, but almost all of them are in Chicago. You are not allowed to possess a handgun in Chicago. You can't have it's the second strictest beyond New York. Okay? Los Angeles, California has some of the strictest gun laws in America. And then it goes between Baltimore and St. Louis. Those 4 places have the most mass shootings. Okay? The ones in Chicago aren't counted because they're gang related. It doesn't matter. And they count it even when you kill people who are not gang related. They still, if the person who is the shooter is in a gang, they don't count those statistics. It's dishonest. We had 15 mass shootings in Chicago this week alone. 15. We need to be honest with ourselves. I'm all about having these conversations, but we have to be honest. And we have to also understand that there are impacts from the other side that are not talked about. And I don't know why we're not talking about them, right? Why are we not talking about the California church massacre that was stopped by a good guy with a gun and the parishioners taking this guy down? Good guy with a gun, off-duty police officer, and then the parishioners took care of it, right? But we're not talking about this. Gandhi said that one of the worst crimes, one of the darkest things that would ever be remembered of the crimes that the British Empire did against the Indian people was the disarmament of a people. I'm pretty close there. Fact check it a little bit, but that's pretty much it. That's Gandhi. He said that the darkest blot of the crimes committed by the British Empire was the disarmament of a people. Jay the Giant, yeah, exactly, Jay. Like, and I just don't understand. We say on the left, you have all these people talking about Black Lives Matter, but we're not talking about the thing that's killing black people the most. And I don't even care about black on black crime. I'm not going there. I'm not going to have that narrative. That's not what I'm talking about. Gun violence in cities where people have the highest amount of gun control is what's killing the most black people. I say this as someone who's been raised. I was raised by black people. I was raised in black culture. I am more in depth and in tune with it than most people are that are not African American or black, or depending on how you want. Most people I know want to be referred to as black. You don't disarm people in order to save them, especially when the Supreme Court just ruled that a police officer has no duty to protect you. Did you guys know that? Police do not have to protect you. That was what me and the attorney I was meeting with earlier, we were talking about a Supreme Court ruling that also aligns with North Carolina statute, that the police's job is to protect the town, but somehow in that protection of the town, protection of the individual that may be a part of that town, it does not fall into their duty. It's antithetical in of itself, in my opinion, but it's foundational law that's been upheld by the Supreme Court. You cannot depend on the police to show up and defend you, to keep you safe. So how, if you want to push the gun control side of things, if police are not required to protect you and you're not allowed to protect you, criminals don't follow laws. I got a lot of friends who are felons. Every last one of them have a gun. Yeah, as Act 6 says, serve and protect has an implied asterisk behind it. So this is all common sense. This isn't left. This isn't right. This isn't any of that. It's literally that disarming people is not how you protect them. Evil people. Listen, these mass shooters are evil people who have done evil things. And I denounce them no matter what their ideology is. Okay? But we are making political pawns out of people's deaths. And that is disingenuous, and we are being intellectually dishonest with ourselves. Period. All it means is that law-abiding citizens won't be able to defend themselves. Imagine if in New York, so in his manifesto, the New York gunman, and I'm not going to name him, I'm not going to read directly from his manifesto because I don't want to give him any type of acknowledgement that would feed his ego, because he's an evil motherfucker. All right? He said that if he knew that there were people who were able to defend themselves or were able to have illegally possessed firearms that had more than 10 rounds, that he would be more worried about what he's doing. But he knows where he's going. People have cucked, quote, that's his quote, cucked guns or no ability to defend themselves. And so it's going to be easy pickings. So if you want to combat combat gun violence by evil people, you don't do that by taking away guns from law-abiding people, because the evil people are still going to get guns. You can literally print them. So Chicago cops don't do anything anymore. Literally, they can't. If they show up to a mass shooting, they get shot at. Yeah, exactly. There was a shootout in the park. Cops surrounding the whole place. There was a guy with a gun in the park, literally was shooting at cops from behind a tree, and they were not allowed to shoot him. They were supposed to negotiate with him while he's shooting at them. What sense does this make? People are so behind their political ideology and pushing their political ideology that we're getting to the point of just nonsensicalness.
Cardboard Styles here again. I know we've had this conversation before, but just to, I guess we have a lot of people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Some people don't understand exactly, maybe first of all, the process in order to have a gun license or a gun in your possession. What do you need to do in the United States to get a gun?
So in the United States, it depends if it's a pistol or if it's a rifle. Okay. So rifles require a background check. Okay. Pistols require a permit. In the United States, you have to be 21.
Texas.
Yeah, except for Texas. You don't have to have a permit. You have to have a background check. But they also, you have to be, so to get a pistol in America, no matter what, there are 3 foundational things. You have to be able to pass a background check. You have to be a citizen. And technically you're supposed to be a citizen. And you have to be 21 or older. So you have to be 21 or older, do a background check, and have some form of government ID that shows that you are a citizen of the state in which you're applying, or a citizen of the United States. Okay.
Do you take any sort of course, a gun
So-
handling course?
So most no, but you're not going to be able to do most things with like a rifle that you normally would if you don't have. So for example, if you want to go hunting with a rifle, you can't just go do that. You have to go take a hunting safety course, right? And over 80% of American gun owners have taken at least one form of gun safety class, right? Okay. So people take, there's no requirement, but most people take it upon themselves to do that.
Okay. So a vague question, I guess, would be these shooters.
Oh, and concealed carry requires a course except unless you have constitutional carry. Go ahead. Sorry.
These shooters, do they typically fall in the 20% that don't take a gun safety course?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to, but most of them probably aren't worried about gun safety if they're out shooting people. One thing that's common amongst most mass shootings that are reported. Now, if you go with the way that they report and you go with this, most people that get these guns and carry out these attacks are legally allowed to possess firearms at the time that they buy or gain access to these firearms. Okay. So it's less about that. Gun culture is so common in America that if you are raised to where you're comfortable with firearms, most of the time somebody's taught you about how to safely possess or use a firearm. Gun culture in America it thrives on safety, you know. So for me, for example, I went for my NRA certified instructor, right? Like I did that because I was taught about firearms by another person. His name was Todd Paris. He's an attorney. And so, you know, I did not possess a firearm. I went and took a safety course and I went and did my CCW, though I didn't apply for my permit, but I took my CCW courses and I did that on my own volition because it's sort of influenced in the circles of people who are gun owners and people who are pro Second Amendment. Yo, if you're going to have a firearm, you need to take a safety course. Go here, go there. And the NRA offers them for free. There's gun clubs that offer them for free. It's different here because we have a gun culture that promotes and wants safety, because the one thing that people can latch onto, oh, well, someone accidentally shot themselves or some kid tragically died because their parent left their firearm unsecured. And we want to prevent that. And that's a big thing inside of American gun culture. As far as these guys going and shooting up schools or committing mass shootings and stuff like that, I don't know what statistics are of them taking like courses or other things like that. I doubt they do. There are people who have been lifelong gun owners that have probably taken those that have had problems. I know of a few, like one was actually a teacher of gun safety. That was back in the mid 2000s, but at the end of the day, most people that are committing these crimes, the most mass shootings actually happen in Chicago, right? A majority of mass shootings are unreported because of the gang rules around them. Most of those firearms are obtained illegally by use against the gun laws and are used on their quote unquote ops. And there's a whole part of self snitching called drill music and a whole slew of things around this culture called drill that literally embraces gunning down the people who are on the other side. You know, back in my day when we were doing dumb shit, like we would fist fight, shit would be over. People rarely came to gunshots, right? Now it's actually embraced in the culture, and drill music embraces it specifically. So,
I sent you a link to
yeah.
go to your Discord private messages.
Mm-hmm.
A neat article showing kind of global
Yeah, I see the gun deaths. Yep.
gun deaths and stuff like that, and how it breaks down. And I thought for the longest time that U.S. was like one of the most dangerous places, but they
That
do rank second in when you consider all gun deaths.
Yeah, but you got to consider how many guns exist too, and how many people there are. So
Right.
the problem with this is it doesn't take into per capita. So this is though this one right here is more important. The country's the highest rate of violent gun death per 100,000 residents. But also the problem with this is that not all homicides are murder, right?
Keep going down.
So,
But to bring up another question, so again, Alex and I are repeating a little bit of conversation that we had before. So I'm going to repeat a question again, and we can go through that
go ahead.
again.
Yeah.
I'm Canadian. Over
Mm-hmm.
here, we cannot carry.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot carry. You need to go through a course to have a firearm. We cannot carry pistols. Only certain jobs, police officer, RCMP. Uh, I don't even think a forest ranger gets to carry a pistol. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but other than that, so why I had asked why
Mm-hmm.
is it so important for a U.S. citizen to strap a firearm to his back and walk down the street?
It goes back to how our country was founded, right? It's a part of American culture, and it's a part of our constitutional rights. And the
Yeah.
reason is that we have this thing called the Second Amendment, and it's based upon the idea that back when England wanted to keep control of the U.S., right, the first thing they did was disarm people, right? And so, and give me 1 second, I just noticed a problem with my thing. I'm showing my start bar. I apologize. Give me 1 second. Let me fix this. I want people knowing what I'm doing. All right. And so for us, it's more of the ability to defend ourselves, right? And even when you look at things like, example, if you look at the UK where they have outlawed firearms, now people just cut people and stab them to death. Like knifings is a big problem. And those are banned in the UK too, and knives are everywhere and they're a huge problem. And you can ask Elle about that. Why do we need guns? Because if the whole point of us having guns is to be able to overthrow our government or defend our homeland if we need to. So, example, look at Ukraine. The Ukrainian people are naturally disarmed. What's the first thing they started doing when they got invaded and it caused a problem? They wanted to go and disperse firearms to their people. They didn't have enough, right? And their people had no idea how to use them. So, a disarmed populace has no idea of how to use firearms in the defense of themselves or others, right? It's not normalized. And a person who doesn't have experience or has no one around them that has experience with firearms that can't be taught quickly is very dangerous. Having someone who doesn't know how to handle or use a firearm all of a sudden possess an automatic firearm is fucking horrible. Don't do that. Okay? It's also like I wouldn't hand a high caliber firearm to a novice, right? Without giving them lessons first. the argument that, oh, just because you have gun deaths in your country, you shouldn't possess firearms, I think is a fallacy. The whole point is that a disarmed populace is a, I don't want to use the word that I want to use. The word I want to use there is inappropriate. A disarmed populace is a neutered populace, right? You can run over them. The first thing tyrannical governments do is they disarm their people, right? And that's what England tried to do to us, and we said never again. So gun culture in America is a part of our history. It's also a reason that people have second thought invading us, right? The Japanese specifically had a huge conversation between Miyamoto and the Japanese emperor of why bad idea for Japan, because every person there has a gun, and it would be like high grass fields filled with snakes. Behind every tree there would be someone shooting at you. Okay, that's basically the conversation. I sort of cut it down, but at the end of the day, it's important because people should have the right to self-determination. You should have the ability to stand up to a tyrannical government, and you should also have the ability to defend your homeland or your country without needing your government's permission to do so, or them to disperse you firearms that they may not have the ability to do in an effective manner or quickly or readily, and then people wouldn't even know what to do with those firearms anyways. It's literally for the protection and it's for protecting the United States, for protecting yourself, for protecting your family, and that's why it's important. If Canada were to be invaded, their populace would have no way to stand up. Period. I know it sounds stupid. Who would invade Canada or America? We're not going to go there, guys. Like, we're not having that conversation. Okay. Love my Canadian brothers.
We're gonna fight them with maple syrup.
Exactly. Go ahead. So what I want to say is the preservation of the American state is important, and having an armed populace that knows how to use firearms is a huge deterrent to any force that would ever want to invade. If anybody ever tried to come and occupy American land, you wouldn't have to worry about our army. You'd have to worry about us, right? Like I know some guys, and they have thousands of rounds, okay, and plenty of guns for everybody, all right, and that's what you'd have to deal with as an invading military. And imagine how demoralizing this is. So we've seen how badly, how important moral is to an army, and how badly it can cause things to go sideways very quickly. With the Russian military is a perfect example. Imagine being a soldier in a country that you have no idea who has a gun. You have no idea who's going to shoot you. You don't know who, when you walk in a house, is going to just pop you straight in the face.
But going back now to the
Yeah.
root of what we were talking about, these shootings and
Yeah.
and stuff. How do you know who's going to be an issue
What do you
before
mean?
it happens? Like
Well, that's the thing. So you have to look at, let's look at who's an issue, right? Let's again exclude gangland territories, since that's how America decides they want to do it. I don't agree with it, but we'll exclude them for the hell of it. All right, because it helps my political point anyways. So when we look at it, the number of gun owners who commit atrocities versus the number of people who own guns is less than 0.001%. No, I want to put that in perspective. 0.001% of the number of people who own firearms versus the number of people who commit atrocities. Okay? That number is lower than the statistics of people who commit violent crimes on a racial category. All right? So legal gun owners who commit crimes are less than 0.001%. All right? So we're talking about mass shootings. Now, when we talk about CCW people who have taken CCW classes and gotten CCW licensed, they are 3 times less likely to commit a violent crime than a normal gun owner. These are just numbers put forth by the NRA and the FBI, and you can find them on the FBI statistics. website, and they're readily and openly available. The last one was done in, I think, 2015 or 16, if I remember correctly. So, yeah. All right.
So should it not be mandatory then to take these courses?
So
If it,
the problem you run into is it says the right to bear and possess arms shall not be infringed. Okay? So that's the problem you run into. As long as you're a law-abiding citizen who hasn't committed a felony, right? The chances of you, they can't really do anything to stop you from owning a firearm, right? Do I believe that people should be required to take a gun safety course, or have
the right, you have the right to have open heart surgery, but you still have to go through.
you don't have a
checks.
right to medical treatment in America? That's not how that works. You don't know? That's why we don't have universal health care, bro.
Yeah, well,
Like I'm pro healthcare, like I'm pro ACA. Like don't get it twisted, but like you don't have a right to that. In America, we have a few enshrined laws, right? So for example, there's actually no right to privacy in the United States. It's an inferred right from the 4th Amendment, right? But we have the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, and 22nd Amendment. Okay? Those are your rights. Anything outside of those is extraneous. I don't know if we have an Article 23. I think we may. But at the end of the day, yes, Northern, that's correct. It's not a right, and sadly. But at the end of the day, those rights cannot be infringed. And one of the direct rights, not inferred, direct rights given to us is that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It is an infringement to say that you cannot possess a firearm if you do not take some government-oriented class or some class from some entity, right? That is an infringement. It's been ruled on by our Supreme Court. Do I think people should take some gun safety classes? Yes. Do I think that they should face bigger consequences if they don't take one and they fuck up? Absolutely, right? Now, those things are, of course, after the fact, but we have to stop taking single instances of things. Did you know you're less likely to be shot today than you were in the 1970s? Well, until this year. In the 1970s? Gun crime is actually lower by far than it was in the late 70s, early 80s. You're safer today than you have ever been. It's just because of the prevalence of media. Everyone has a video camera in their hand, and the readily availableness of news is so much bigger, and a 24-hour news cycle that needs to feed on something, that we have inbred this fear in Americans that somehow you're going to run into some random mass shooter in your day-to-day life. Your chances of being involved in a mass shooting are less than you being involved in a car wreck. Less than you getting in a crash on a plane. Right? There's this extreme view that's been perpetuated by absolute nonstop wall-to-wall coverage in America of any small crisis that is then used for political gain, which means that it's echoed louder than its actual impact is. Yes, I'm sorry. I feel bad for the 10 people who lost their lives, okay? I'm not trying to make light of that. But you need to think of it in the perspective of the larger scope. How many people are in America? How many people in America have guns? And how many people actually die by those? Yeah, Oslo has the same violent crime rate per year, per capita as New York, for example. They're not allowed to possess firearms. Just like serial killers, you hear about them all the time. You hear them all throughout, our media and shows and stuff. You know how often it is to see a serial killer? You're more likely to get struck by lightning than killed by a serial killer. How many of their names do we know? How many shows are about them? Yeah.
how many new ones pop up?
Yeah, exactly. That you hear about all over, and they killed all these people. In the grand scheme of things, they didn't. They had minimal effect. Now, again, I don't want to make light of people dying, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm talking about we have to rationalize and put things back in perspective because of the sensationalism that's needed for ratings, right? We have created a news that feeds on fear and anger. Period. And that's what drives these conversations. And then they only offer it from one perspective. I bet none of you have heard them ever talk about this fact right here. Show me one news corporation that has talked about this specific fact right here. The best estimates are that guns are used to deter and thwart crime between 500,000 at the lowest, that's the lowest study, and 2.8 million times per year. But the most likely answer is probably somewhere in the middle. A 2021 survey estimated that guns are used 1.67 million times per year in self-defense in the United States. Do we care about the lives that are saved through this when we talk about gun control? We're talking about, if we save just one life, it's worth it. Well, one, gun control, criminals are not going to abide by gun control. And there are millions of guns out there. You're not going to remove them all. And then you're going to disempower these people. That's the recreational outrage thing I mentioned before at Cardboard. Yeah, recreational outrage. There are problems in our society, and I don't want to make light of them. I think that we operate from this stance. Oh, shouldn't we put more responsibility on individuals who haven't done anything? Yeah, we should require them to have gun safety. Yeah, that makes sense. But what issue are we addressing with it? Are we making the people who aren't the problem address the issue while not resolving the issue of where it lies? We have a problem with violence in America, not because people have guns, but because people are influenced to commit violence. And there are always going to be deranged and sick people out there who are going to seek to hurt and harm others because they want to see the world burn. And you can't restrict the rights of the many to prevent the few. It's idiocracy in and of itself, in my opinion.
Policies in place for, say, you've been diagnosed as something that you get your permit to carry revoked, or no matter.
So there are red flag laws, and I disagree with them. All right, the only people who, so there are in America, in the United States, if you have been committed to a mental institution, you are not supposed to be able to buy a firearm. Okay. Now, there are instances where people have been able to achieve this, but it is a part of the reporting of a mental institution that they are allowed to disclose this to state agencies that then restrict your ability to buy a firearm until you've been given a clean bill of health. Okay. The thing is that, again, even so, it's still scapegoating. You're using this to further your own political position because, again, that makes up a small minority of gun owners. It's literally in the thousandths position of people who own guns and the number of guns in America. When you look at truly our per capita rates of gun violence, guys, understand there's a difference between a homicide and a murder, right? You could kill someone in self-defense and it's justified homicide, but it still goes in the homicide numbers. It still goes in the homicide numbers. It's still counted as a homicide. Example, in my case, right, I'm entirely innocent. And let's say a jury agrees with that. That incident is still considered in the homicide numbers because we like to confuddle the two. So that way the numbers look worse for a political purpose, right? So. And when we talk about it, we talk about, look at all the people who've donated, these guys who are FFL dealers and stuff like that, who've donated, thousands of firearms. Thousands of firearms from the U.S. have been donated to Ukraine. Who's talking about that? Nobody. A disarmed populace is a weak populace, and that's easily controlled and has no way to govern itself ever again. You should not disarm people because a few bad actors decide to do bad things. You punish those people. You don't punish every law-abiding citizen. And the ability and right to bear arms is fundamental. And I disagree with any country that says that you don't have a right to possess a firearm the same as your government does. That right there is a step of tyranny. That's my opinion. It's just where I am.
I thought for sure after the 2000, I think it was 2017 Las Vegas, Nevada shooting. Is it 2017? I thought for
I don't
sure.
remember the Las Vegas shooting. Hold on.
It was at a concert.
I
Yeah,
know,
the guy was in the
I know what it
hotel.
was. Yeah, he was in the hotel. I remember, and the bump stock thing came about.
I thought for sure something was.
Yeah,
gonna come up.
2017.
Yeah.
But again, this man legally owned his firearms. All right. It was a failure of the system. The laws are in place. If we just enforce the laws that we had on the books, then we wouldn't have this problem, right? That came down to a lack of actual enforcement of the laws on the books and not funding. So here's the thing. So don't let Congress fool you. Go look at Democrats and see where they've cut funding on the DEA or the ATF. Okay? Now, they haven't cut it on the DEA, though they want to end the war on drugs, but go look at how many times they've cut funding to the ATF. The ATF is criminally underfunded. Okay? Criminally underfunded. And guess what? Most of the cuts have been proposed by people who support gun control. How does that make sense? If I neuter the agency that's supposed to enforce gun laws and make sure that gun laws are being followed and that mental health agencies are doing what they're supposed to be, and I underfund them and make it impossible for them to do their job, and therefore there's more tragedies, which they are. I'm not in any way making light of that. They are tragedies, but there are more tragedies. It allows me to forward my political position. And this is the problem I have, because I see it done and then they want to shout from the rooftops, but you didn't give a fuck when you cut the ATF's budget. Why? Because you wanted this to happen is the only way I cannot think of any other reason. Someone else give me a good reason. If you're for gun control, yet you cut the ATF's budget.
Right.
What's the purpose other than you're using people's lives as political pawns? And that's what's triggering this conversation here, because I'm tired of people who are dying being used for your political purposes when there are laws on the books that you could enable us to empower, that you can empower government agencies that exist today with nothing new just by increasing their budget and doubling it, which wouldn't be fucking hard. And it wouldn't even take a dent out of the funding that we put forward to defense spending. So how am I supposed to believe you care? The solution isn't to take guns away from law-abiding people. It isn't to enforce new rules on law-abiding people. As I said, I know lots of felons, and I know one person who's a felon that I know that doesn't have a firearm or access to a firearm of some form. People who live a criminal lifestyle do not abide by laws. What we need to do is empower the things we have in place to enforce this, right? And we can talk about, well, other countries don't allow. Well, that's great, but that's neither here nor there. That's apples and oranges. They have different cultures. Our culture is founded around the idea that England conquered us, tried to disarm us, and tax the shit out of us. And we decided to throw a tea party and fuck some shit up. Okay? The American society was founded off the idea of rebellion. All right? And the idea that fuck around and find out, right? Like, example, Russia wants to mess around and they can fuck around and find out why Americans don't have free healthcare when they see our F-35s. Like, I don't know what else to say. If Ukraine would have had an armed populace that was able to defend itself and knew how to use guns, you literally had guys who were literally barrel strafing in groups because they had never experienced using firearms before. These guys were about to get handed Kalashnikovs, okay? And outside of the U.S., most AKs have an automatic setting, all right, on their selector switch, all right? You're about to hand these guys 7.62 automatic firearms, and they don't even know how to fucking swipe the people around them with a barrel, right? They don't know anything about gun control. Whereas if you had this, there would be at least someone in a group of, okay, so here's how it is. In America, 1 in 5 people know how to use firearms in depth. You know? Northern says, I bet the Boston Harbor tasted good after, though. God dang right, all that English tea. Oh, man. So, yeah. So, anyways. who owns the gun? So Northern Light says, who owns the gun companies? Which side? I think is a way to get people scared to either buy more guns because you can't revoke the Second Amendment. So here's the thing: most gun corporations are not owned by a single person. They're owned by asset management groups or individual shareholders, and a majority of the people who own those stocks are usually in the middle or apolitical. They usually care more about money than anything else. So, Jay the Giant Peach says, Slim, did you hear about the mass shooting plot planned in Halifax, Canada? If that didn't get stopped and you were there and had a gun to help the innocent lives, wouldn't you feel safer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I wish Canada was a little more or a lot more like the US, that we had the right to bear arms. I don't agree with pistols. Um, I'd rather a rifle strapped to somebody's back I know they're carrying, as
Mhm.
opposed to a pistol where they can conceal it.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of wish we were. Um, yeah, I think people would think twice before committing the crime, knowing you've said it best before, Alex. Is like, I mean, if you're gonna go and fuck somebody up, I want to go with that person. You're gonna think twice because what if they're carrying?
Mhm.
And
Think,
after saying what I said, having it strapped to your back, I could see it. I'm gonna know. I'm not. Let's talk it out.
well, I think it was me and you had this conversation before. I was like, think about it. If you don't know someone's carrying a gun, you're gonna come at them in a physical way, like, "Yo, motherfucker, I'll beat you." You might get shot.
Yeah,
So it sort of breeds civility. I don't mean that in a bad way. You shouldn't get shot because you're being hostile. Now, the ABCs guys. So actions, behaviors, and communications and threat assessment. I'm not going to advise anyone on that. Go seek out a gun professional who teaches CCW and use of force. That's not something we're going to get into here, right? But no one should be shot for words. Words are not violence, right? You have to do more than just words. But when you don't know that if someone has a gun or not, you're going to think before you go getting violent with somebody, right?
that's right.
It breeds
Yeah,
civility. I hate to say it. It's the great equalizer. Here's the other thing. As a woman, right? We've talked about sexual dimorphism, right? It's the great equalizer. If you had to worry about every woman, listen, here's the thing. You want black men to stop getting shot in America because they have a gun? Normalize them having guns. I want every black man in America to have a gun. I want every man, I don't give a damn about your race. I want every American who's above the age of 21 to have a firearm. Why?
legit.
Because if you normalize it, people will stop getting shot over it. Okay? And if everybody has a gun, you're going to think, if you're a rapist, you're going to think before you go trying a woman, and because they going to shoot you.
I'm
Right?
really
But,
liking the conversation in chat.
cool.
Hilarious. Yes, we have
Makes sense.
bears, geese, moose. All those things can be kind of threatening. We can,
Can be. Dude, you guys have grizzly bears. Them motherfuckers are huge.
yeah, yeah. Listen, if you come across a grizzly bear, you're walking in the woods. If you're walking in the woods, you're allowed to carry your firearm with you. Obviously, gun, the safety on, blah blah blah. We have a whole bunch of rules. If you're driving down road, you can have your rifle in your vehicle with you. Again, there has to be a safety on, all that stuff.
Guys, here's the thing though. Against a massive grizzly bear, if you're carrying like a 9mm or an AR-15, you're not going to do
Nope.
anything but piss that motherfucker off. You need to have like a 12 gauge shotgun with like heavy shell, like slugs, not spread, but slugs, or a big bore rifle. That shit is they are beasts. They can take gunshots and just keep going. I'm telling you, they're big motherfuckers. Moose too. Moose, yo, y'all, you guys think a bear's bad. You should see what a moose can do. Moose can tip over small
They got the
cars.
range,
Yeah.
the
And
long legs.
somebody mentioned we've got lots of weed and free healthcare
Weed is actually not legal in Canada.
too, and we're proud of it.
Yeah. So, uh Texas. I see a huge bear. I'm gonna die. Moose are fucking huge. Yeah, they're a lot bigger than you think. Like Americans, like we picture moose and we're like, oh, maybe they're the size of deer. No, these dude, they are fucking huge, right?
Dude, one of my friends from here moved to the States, met a girl, got married, decided decided to bring her back to my neck of the woods, and they're driving up Canada to show her the whole, landscape and stuff. And along the highway, she sees a moose. She's rolling up the windows, locking the door. She's like, "What the fuck is that thing?" It looks like a horse, but it's 10 times the height.
Cool.
Yeah. They're pretty big.
Yeah, no, I definitely like I have a friend who lives in the wilderness of Alaska, him and his wife, and they like have a off-grid like farm and whatever. And they were talking about running into grizzly bears, and he sent me a picture, and that motherfucker was as big as his small little Hyundai car, and I was like, "Oh my god." Like I did not realize how big grizzlies can get. Thing was like just chilling, had its paws up on like the top of the roof, and was just like looking out over the field, like behind, like up, like just it just literally covered the side of the car. I'll have to find it, but
Luckily,
yeah.
we don't have grizzly bears. We do have black bears. We do have moose. I had a moose actually in my yard playing in the pool one year.
Yep, absolutely,
Did a
absolutely.
number. Oh well.
Holy shit! 1 minute. Um, yeah, it's just crazy,
We
you
actually
know.
have a wilderness tour locally
Hmm.
here in town, and they've raised this a couple of moose in the whole wilderness tour. They've raised it from infancy, but you could pet a moose, literally.
Oh, that's insane. Cool.
Cool.
Oh man. Um. All right. Well, guys, that's really where we're on this. I just want so the takeaway for this for me, guys, is that I really want people to understand that disarming people and this talk of gun control is a lot of times insincere. If you see a politician talking about gun control, be like, "Hey, how do you feel about properly funding the ATF?" Right? Ask them about enforcing. It's much easier to enforce the laws we have than to try to get new ones passed. So if they're not willing to say, "Yeah, I want to fund the ATF appropriately, and I'm down to do that," and getting dedication out of them, then say, then you're just one of those people who are saying the right words to get what you want, right? Because that's all it is, right? If you are a gun control advocate and you don't support properly funding the ATF, then you're part of the problem, right? I'm not saying that there aren't things that we can do in America to make sure people are safer and better, right? And I'm all for that. But to do so, we need to make sure that the people who are enforcing those laws in the first place are able to do their fucking jobs. And disarming law abiding citizens is not an answer. It's not, period. And I'm tired of people's deaths. People died. And instead of mourning the death of those people, instead they're being used as political tools for people who most likely really don't give a shit about them. And it's infuriating. Because people have intrinsic value and their lives should not be used as pawns in your political game. Period. I don't care what side you're on.
Keep talking like that, you'll have to run for governor of North Carolina.
Oh, Lord Jesus, help me. Nope.
Nope. Nope.
I think I
Mark.
can do a better job not being in political office and affecting change from the outside if I can just keep if I can get this off the ground, get people on into the movement. I need to find a good name for the movement where it's we don't care if you're left or if you're right. What we care about is common sense bullshit and getting it to where the people the common people have a voice, because right now the only people who have super huge voices are the people who are the most extreme and most non-representative of most of us. Like inside of our Discord, we have people who are from all sides, left, right, middle, right? And we have so much in common, and there are a few divisive subjects that we have severe differences on. And that's it. Period. And when I say common sense, I don't care about common sense. I'm not talking about that type of common sense. I'm talking about like we have common issues that we have agreements on, at least some form, and returning to where we can agree to disagree, walk away, still be friends in this whole, you're not platforming somebody by listening to them. You're not helping your situation by othering people you disagree with, right? That's all I want. Herman's like, we have a wolf problem here. Norway has, you guys have like 150-pound gray wolves and shit. That they're gigantic too. I wouldn't want to fuck with those because they hunt in packs. You can shoot and kill one of them, but they're gonna get you. It don't matter. So, yeah, I just want I want to return to civil discourse. And there are issues that we have high agreements on that we could address today, but nobody's trying to do them because they don't play in the news well and they don't get you recognition, right? Everybody's after the hot button topics and creating conflict because our news cycle is so focused on it and they need it to drive ratings. That none of the issues we have agreements on are actually being addressed, just the shit that makes us more divided.
I like the fact that we're taking the hot button topics, though, and fully discussing them.
Yeah, and we can do it in a non-emotional way and remove the like you know how many people here didn't actually know what Roe v. Wade even people actually thought it was going to ban abortion. It's not what's happening. And people don't even know Roe v. Wade only covers the first trimester. Other than that, it's open game. It doesn't matter where you are in the United States. And they haven't banned abortion past the first trimester in most states. Like we have to stop this sensationalism that's happening in our media and with our politics, because the only reason they're doing it is to drive clicks, to drive attention, and it's so toxic to the America as a whole. So yeah, anyways. All right, guys, I don't have a good subject to end it on. You know what I'm saying? It's we're 9 minutes out, but I appreciate all of you guys for showing up and being here. Make sure you guys hit that like and that subscribe button if you haven't already. But most of all, guys, you can help me the most by hitting that share button. Hitting that share button, sharing this to Facebook, sharing this to your social media. That's really how we can grow, and that's really what I need you guys to do. So if you click that share button, I greatly appreciate it. We try to stay civil here, talk about things from all sides, get international views. I've had people all the way from Austria, Germany, Norway on here to talk about issues and be participatory. And I appreciate all of you. Thanks. I know that I've sort of dominated this discussion, but big shout out to Styles. Thank you, man, for joining us. Great to have you here from Canada. And do so good to have you, man, here from, the great state of Texas. So take a bow.
Good note to end this on. I do. Everyone, do not miss Bar Hop Fridays.
Bar Hop Fridays.
Cool. The one day we get to get Alex drunk.
Oh, Lord Jesus, I'm going to have to buy a bottle. Fuck. Okay. Bet. All right. So you don't have, Zachar doesn't have social media. Well, you know what, man? The more, I don't know what to even say. Leave a comment, So, but yeah, guys, I appreciate all of you. And remember, guys, you have intrinsic value just by being alive. You are important to me, and it's not about what you produce, who you are, white, black, female, male, it doesn't matter. You have value just by being alive, and I love every last one of you guys. Make sure you guys hit those buttons again. I appreciate all of you. We are out. I will see you guys. There may not be, still got to make a determination. There may not be a podcast tomorrow because I have a huge deadline coming up. But just remember, we'll be back Wednesday. With all that, peace.